Hey everybody, I'm Jordan, and this is going to be a very different vlog where I'm going to attempt to, do a video essay on the history of rate select. So if you've followed me at all for, ever since I began, I was a huge fan of spill.com, loading bar, and rate select. I first came upon them via YouTube, and that was, of course, where Spill started, and then I believe I was on Spill right around, if not before, they even started doing the loading bar, and I was there until about the end, unfortunately. And so I got to be there when Rate Select was started, and to current day. I kind of stopped being a fan probably a year or two ago. I know it's been a while where I just haven't been keeping up or really looking at any of their recent videos except to do research for this video. So this will be a brief history of Rage Select. So originally on spill.com, Corey Coleman was asked by the company that was paying him in order to run his website that he needs to start up a gaming podcast, which he was very resistant to. And so he started it up with a couple of people that were already at Spill, which is where Jeff comes in. Jeff was originally hired on as an animator, and I thought that he was the one that was actually put in charge of Loading Bar, because at one point it primarily became him and Jason that were doing a lot of the Let's Plays, and then, as well as Nick Hodges and Kevin J. Baird that were doing game reviews and so on. But actually it was Corey that was told to do it, and he was the main one in charge, hence why when it first began, all the podcast reviews and some of the Let's Plays, he was predominantly in it. But eventually he probably got sidetracked with doing other things, so it was mostly Jeff that was running it. So, and that was how it went for quite a while, and it got pretty popular. So popular that at one point when Jeff and Jason had this idea to want to go to E3, but sadly they didn't have the money, so Jeff came up with this fun idea of let's do a live streaming fundraiser, and it was so successful that they made the money, I believe, a day or so before they even did the live stream, which is amazing. And I should know, because I gave him probably a couple of $100 before, and I believe even during the actual live stream, I think. And it was a shit ton of fun. They brought over a whole bunch of people from Spill, from various other different podcasts, to join in while they live streamed video games, and did all sorts of fun stuff, and it went on until the wee hours of the morning, and it was a shit ton of fun. But sadly, before that could happen, Loading Bar and various other podcasts and a few other individuals sadly got cut because the company that was funding Spill didn't feel like giving them any more money, and eventually this led to Spill being canceled as well. But that didn't stop Jeff and Jason, because I guess they still had more than enough money from the fundraiser to go ahead and start up Rage Select some months later, something that even Jason was teasing about on Facebook about, hey, so stay tuned, because we got something really fun and cool planned. And pretty much it was them resurrecting the Loading Bar just under a different name, which was great. And it was just the two of them this time around. They did bring on, or bring back, I should say, Nick Hodges for, I believe, only a couple of podcasts when they first started out. And they also brought back Kevin a few times as well. But that only lasted, and I believe Nick was only on, a couple of podcasts. He wasn't on any reviews, same thing with Kevin. But that eventually stopped, obviously because they were busy doing their own thing, where after Loading Bar ended, Nick Hodges, he later went on to, go and do a project that he had been talking about for a while, that he even mentioned in the Rage Select podcast, starting up his own channel called History Buffs, where he talks about historical movies and their accuracy, talking about the actual history of said event, talking about the actual movie, and so on and so forth. And it's been hugely successful. Hell, I'm a fan. I really like it. And Kevin, I believe, has just kind of been doing his own thing. I kind of lost track of what Kevin's been doing. But Rage Select kind of kept going on. But, I mean, it was fine for the most part how it started, where for like the first several months up to probably the first year or so, they were just doing what they'd always been doing, 2-part Let's Plays of 2 different games. I mean, they did set up a new schedule where it was Monday to Thursday, it was 2 parts Let's Plays of 2 different games. Every Friday, they would do an Indie Friday, where they looked at a brand new indie game. Saturday, they introduced Sequential Saturday, where they were doing a full playthrough of a game that both Jason and Jeff really wanted to do. And then on Sunday, they would do a podcast, where they talked about gaming news, and then they would read fan emails. And that was pretty much it. And then every once in a while, they would do a podcast-style review, much like what they did on the Loading Bar. And they would still have special guests, like they did back on Loading Bar during their Let's Plays, like whether it was Brian Brushwood, whether it was Corey, or just one of the other various people who were on Spill, like Carlisle, or Brian Salisbury, and so forth. Hell, one of my favorite ones that a fan on YouTube made a short little compilation of was Jeff, Jason, and Brian Salisbury playing Castlevania 3. And the fact that you can still find that, along with many others. But up into about a year, things were just sort of going the same way that they have been doing, where I believe it was around maybe the first year, or maybe the second year, where Jason announced that he was leaving the website. Not necessarily, like he was quitting, even though that's what he initially said, but that was a joke. Where he was still going to be involved, but not as hands-on involved as he had been, where he would be around maybe like once a month for a sequential Saturday Let's Play, where at one point they did like Metal Gear Solid 3, and we're doing Red Dead Redemption. But primarily he was just not going to be involved in like any of the other Let's Plays. Jeff was either going to be doing some stuff solo, or he was going to have another special guest like Chris Cox, another person formerly of Spill, and so on and so forth. And around this time, I believe around or before this time, because Jason was still really good friends with Brian Brushwood, and they had started a TV show. I forget what the original name of the show was, and I believe it only lasted, I think, like 1 season on Discovery. But they went on to make their YouTube channel, The Modern Rogue, and that became hugely successful. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of that. It's a lot of fun, actually. I believe, if I remember correctly, Brian Brushwood's semi-first introduction to us, anyway, was when they announced for the Loading Bar they were going to do a big special live stream event for Borderlands 2, and Brian Brushwood, not only was he going to be involved, he was going to be hosting it. Like he helped them out with the YouTube channel that he was previously a part of, and that it was going to be like this big, like 2 to 3 hour event. And that was a shit ton of fun. Thankfully, I believe you can still watch that on YouTube. Thankfully. But mainly why I want to talk about this, and why I've talked about the brief history of explaining a lot of it, and this is like my 3rd attempt at actually doing this video, is I have gone so far to try and contact and ask questions of both Jason Murphy and even a few other people formerly of Spill or of Rage Select. Someone like Kristen, who used to do Sparkle Fandango with Jason's wife Allison, which sadly that didn't seem to last very long. That was gone after maybe like a year or so, and that was only after maybe doing, I'm not even sure exactly how many videos, but I know it wasn't a lot, and only like one special podcast that they posted via the Patreon. Because I was certainly hoping to see more, because I was a fan of that. And according to Kristen, she has her theories about why it was ended. She wanted it to keep going, obviously, but, people move on eventually. She did give me one theory as to why she thinks that it was canceled, but she'd rather I not repeat it, so I'm not going to. I've tried asking or talking to Jeff via Twitter, but he hasn't responded. Mostly I just wanted to ask him some honest questions, because one thing that kind of bothers me is that, particularly if you look at Rage Select's current subscriber count and even their view count, it's not very good. Their subscriber count is good, where it's in the thousands, but it's only about 13,000 or so, and same thing with their views, where highest view count they got was probably for a video a week ago where it got like maybe 1,000 views or so. Everything else is in the range of 500 to 300 views, which really isn't all that great. I even heard from Chris Cox that I guess Jeff finally had to get a regular day job in order to help pay the bills, because he's not making enough money anymore via Patreon or YouTube. Hell, I can't even imagine he's making that much money from YouTube. I mean, maybe, hopefully. But primarily what bothers me is how Jeff has decided to just stick to this one routine. How at one point I believe after like the first couple of years of doing Rage Select, they stopped doing game reviews of any kind. And I wanted to get the actual reason from Jeff why they stopped doing this, because if I remember, it was either during an old podcast or an old Let's Play where he said that he stopped doing Let's Plays because people were being really shitty in the comments. And I can understand that. I mean, I've had people be shitty in my comments, on some of my reviews, but that's the internet, and you really shouldn't let, just random anonymous people stop you from doing, what you want to do. But, of course, I don't know if that's the true reason, but what I will say is that if you're not going to do reviews, then what is the point then of buying brand new $60 games and only doing 2-part Let's Plays on them every single week if you're not going to review them? Also, and I mean, this is going to sound really moot and frankly kind of stupid. Pretty early on, Jeff and Jason introduced these puppet intros that they were doing that I thought really, kind of separated them from the rest of the YouTube populace, frankly, or at least, the Let's Play populace, where it was these custom-made puppets that Jeff had made, and they were really cute, they were really funny, and basically they were primarily used for the beginning of the Let's Plays as, an intro, both an intro and an outro. And there was even an idea at one point that Jeff introduced via the Patreon special, where if you were a patron, every Monday, I believe you got a special email that only you got as a patron, where you got access to, different Let's Plays that nobody else was getting, whether it was a completely different full Let's Play of something. Like, I forget, like, some of the other ones. Like, one that stands out is Jeff and one of his other co-hosts, which I don't even know if he's still helping co-host right now, is John Sitton, where they were doing Metal Gear Solid as a full Let's Play. But I dropped off but I kind of dropped off of that Let's Play pretty quickly because it was a tad too annoying to watch because, and I believe I even said this in the comments, where John thought it was necessary to really go out of his way and try and kill every single guard that he came across, when it isn't, because it's a stealth game, but whatever. I just found that to be just too goddamn annoying. It's like, John, stop it. Stop it. What are you doing? Anyway. Hey, so while I'm editing this here at work, I completely forgot something that I wanted to add. As for the patron thing, there was a prototype demo that Jeff of Rage Select had released via the patron stuff, where it was an idea where they were going to do shorthand reviews featuring, game footage, pretty standard YouTube game review stuff nowadays, just with the puppets, and they were going to be much shorter, and they only released one as a prototype, and basically asked, like, hey, like, what do you guys think about this idea? Would you guys like to see more of this? I thought it was great, but I guess maybe it wasn't well received, or who really knows, because that was the only one of that video that we saw, and that was something I forgot to mention. Sorry about that. But eventually, they stopped doing the puppet intros and outros, and the apparent reason for that is because it was a little bit too difficult to think of a quick little skit to do to start the video before they got into the game. And I'm sorry, but how hard is it really to just come up with a quick 10-second little sketch where your puppet and your other co-host, whether it's Jason puppet version or one of your other co-hosts, you guys just talking about what whatever it is that you're playing, and make a quick joke and then just move on from there. And then at the end of it, maybe give a brief thought about it, or just make a brief joke about it, and then there you go. I mean, I can understand too how if you're recording every single day, and I get it too, where Jeff was the one that was recording and editing everything, every single video, and obviously making every decision because he was in charge. Because I get that, because I'm in that same boat where I record, I edit everything that I do, and it is a huge pain in the ass, but thank God I'm not on a schedule, because I can never keep to it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I wish I was making money at doing this. That would be wonderful, but I doubt that'll ever happen. But see, it's just what kind of bothers me about the whole thing about Rage Select is that I'm a huge fan, or at least I was. And I'm not making this video to try and hate on Jeff, or try and give him any shit, or anything like that, because I want to see him succeed. But it just seems like he's hit a really bad slump, but he doesn't want to really do anything to change it. He just wants to stay on this main course. And I've, wanted, to hear back from fans about, do they like the current content? Are they okay with this? Would they like to see Jeff change? Either change his schedule or just change, just whatever it is that he's doing. Because what advice I would give if Jeff were to ask what he would want to see from fans, I would suggest, where's that Fact Xanadu Let's Play that you said that you wanted to do so long ago? I mean, I remember him saying, like, man, I would love to do a full Let's Play of Fact Xanadu because I love that game. Do that, then. Of course, for all I know, of course, I don't even know if they're still doing the special Patreon stuff. And maybe he did that there. I would not be too surprised if he didn't, but who knows? Or like take requests from fans, start doing polls, communicate more with your fans, ask them, like, what would you guys like to see me do? What would you guys like to see me play? Be communicative with your patrons, with your fans. Just what I find so funny is that, there are so many other examples of people, whether it's the Game Grumps that have made a living out of just doing Let's Plays. Yes, they have a schedule, but it's not, hey, let's play this brand new game. It's no, they play whatever it is that they want to play, and they'll do full Let's Play series of it, whether it's almost the entire fucking Zelda series or Metal Gear or any old game or any new game, really. You know, and those are fun just because of, you know, the banter or the comedy, you know, that Aaron and Danny are obviously able to bounce off of each other because they've been friends for several years. And also, it obviously doesn't help that and it obviously helps that they've taken improv classes so they know how to bounce off of each other. Now, I mean, that was also what was brilliant about Jeff and Jason, was that they were really funny guys and they were able to, you know, make jokes and, you know, do various other different bits or whatnot, and it worked, and it was brilliant. It was really funny. Same thing that they did with the podcast with a shit ton of other people. But sadly, that spirit is kind of lost, and it's a tad weird that, seeing as how Jason... I think Jason made the smarter move in stepping away and starting up Modern Rogue with Brian Brushwood, because that's a huge success. And that's probably much easier to do. And it's also a lot more fun to do, probably. And they're probably also making a shit ton more money doing that, too. Or like Nick with his History Buffs stuff, where maybe he's not as regular, you know, about his uploads, but last I saw, you know, he has a really high subscriber count, and he has also just a shit ton of views. I mean, I can only imagine, though, with a lot of the copyright bullshit he has to deal with, though, because it's movies, you know, that he's talking about, and even though it's a review, but that's YouTube for you. It's just, I would like to see Rage Select still be its own thing, you know, be doing their own thing in their own way, you know, and I would show them now, but I believe I've lost them, where I owned, or at least at one point, I owned a couple of Rage Select shirts, along with, a Rage Select poster, where, you know, I'm sure if you looked at, more than likely, you're probably still on my Twitter profile, old pictures of me showing off when I got, you know, my Rage Select t-shirts of their Mexican Batman character that they created from an old Let's Play a long time ago. It's just, I would like it if Rage Select was big. Obviously not, you know, overwhelmingly popular, but at least big enough where hopefully they were, you know, particularly Jeff, that he was in a good financial and happy place. Now, I don't know how he feels, frankly, because sadly, you know, I haven't been able to talk to him. Hell, one of the last times I remember talking to him was probably several years ago, DMing over Twitter about, I believe, asking for advice about live streaming, which I still have never done. I would like to, but I don't know how to do it properly, so I've just never really dabbled in it. That, and I don't even know if really anybody would watch, but it'd be worth a try. But mostly I would like to hear your thoughts, like, you know, were you a fan of Spill? Were you a fan of the Loading Bar? Are you still a fan of Rage Select? Do you still support them? Would you like to see them change? What would you like to see change? Are you happy with the current content? Because I'm not. I mean, that's kind of why I quit. You know, I mean, it's why I stopped watching. It's why I stopped being a patron a long time ago. Anyway, you know, please let me know what you think Jeff, if you do watch this at all, I mean, I mean no ill will at all. It's just I want to see you succeed, but mostly, man, I really hope that you're happy. I really do. Anyway, see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves.